every couple argues, it's as inevitable as sunrise. But here's what most people don't realize. The difference between relationships that grow stronger through conflict and those that crumble isn't about how often you fight. It's about how you fight. Think about the last argument you had. Did it leave you feeling understood and connected, or distant and resentful? The truth is, conflict done right can actually deepen your bond. When you fight fair, you're not avoiding disagreements. You're learning to navigate them in ways that bring you closer rather than push you apart. Studies from the Gottman Institute show that couples who master fair fighting techniques are significantly more likely to stay together long term. Why? Because they've learned to turn conflict into an opportunity for understanding, not a battlefield for winning. In this video, we'll uncover the game-changing rules that transform arguments from relationship killers into connection builders. You'll learn the 3 most toxic fighting habits that destroy relationships and how to avoid them, how to express frustration in ways that actually get heard, the secret weapon happy couples use to de-escalate tension, why some arguments never get resolved, and what to do instead. By the end, you'll have practical tools to disagree in ways that strengthen rather than strain your relationship. Because here's the beautiful truth. When you fight for understanding instead of victory, every argument becomes a chance to love each other better. So tell me in the comments, what's your biggest struggle when it comes to arguing well? Fighting fair starts with awareness, and your answer might help someone else feel less alone. Let's dive in. Most couples unknowingly sabotage their relationships by falling into 3 toxic communication patterns that researchers call the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Yes, they're that destructive. These aren't just bad habits. They're relationship killers that create lasting damage with every argument. 1. Explosive criticism. It's one thing to say, "I'm upset you didn't do the dishes." It's another to say, "You're so lazy and selfish." When we attack our partner's character rather than their behavior, we make them feel worthless rather than motivated to change. This kind of personal criticism triggers deep shame and defensiveness. 2. Destructive contempt. This is the most dangerous of all. The eye rolls, sarcastic remarks. "Oh wow, you actually helped for once." Mocking tone or name-calling. Contempt communicates disgust, and research shows it's the single strongest predictor of divorce. It's not just what you say, it's the tone and body language that says, "I don't respect you." 3. Painful stonewalling. When one partner shuts down, withdraws, or gives the silent treatment, it creates what psychologists call emotional abandonment. This isn't healthy conflict avoidance. It's a complete shutdown that leaves the other partner feeling alone and desperate for connection. The shocking truth? Dr. John Gottman's research found that when these patterns become habitual, psychologists can predict divorce with 93% accuracy just by observing a couple's arguments. These behaviors literally rewire how partners see each other. Over time, the brain starts associating the relationship with threat rather than safety. But here's the hopeful part. Awareness is the first step to change. The moment you recognize these patterns in your arguments, you gain the power to choose differently. In the next section, we'll explore exactly how to replace these toxic habits with communication that actually brings you closer. Every healthy relationship has disagreements, but how you handle them makes all the difference. The most important principle for productive arguments is this: always attack the problem, not the person. This fundamental shift in approach can turn heated exchanges into opportunities for deeper understanding and connection. When we use accusatory language like, "you always ignore me," or "you never help around here," their natural response is to either counterattack or shut down, creating a communication breakdown. However, when we reframe our concerns using "I feel" statements, such as "I feel unheard when I share my thoughts and get interrupted," we express our needs without assigning blame. This subtle but powerful change keeps the conversation focused on resolving the issue rather than assigning fault. Psychological research reveals why this approach works so effectively. You statements trigger the brain's threat response, flooding the body with stress hormones that impair problem solving. In contrast, I language activates the prefrontal cortex, keeping both partners calm and receptive. Studies show couples who master this technique resolve conflicts faster and report higher relationship satisfaction. The magic lies in this simple formula. I feel emotion when specific situation. What I need is request. For example, I feel anxious when we're running late because I value punctuality. Could we plan to leave 10 minutes earlier next time? This structure expresses your needs clearly while inviting collaboration rather than confrontation. Implementing this approach requires practice and mindfulness. Even with the right words, your tone and body language must align with your intention to connect rather than criticize. When done consistently, this method transforms arguments from relationship stressors into opportunities for growth. You'll find your partner more willing to listen, compromise becomes easier, and you'll both feel valued even during disagreements. The next time you feel a conflict brewing, pause and ask yourself, am I describing the problem or attacking my partner? That moment of awareness could be the difference between an argument that divides you and one that brings you closer together. After all, in healthy relationships, it's never you versus your partner. It's both of you versus the problem. Ever found yourself in an argument where you suddenly can't think straight? That's not just frustration. It's biology. When emotions run high during conflict, your heart rate spikes, and once it passes 100 beats per minute, something remarkable happens in your brain. The prefrontal cortex, your center for rational thinking and problem solving, essentially goes offline, while your amygdala, the emotional alarm system, takes over. This is why we say things we later regret when we're angry. This physiological response explains why trying to talk it out in the heat of the moment often backfires spectacularly. You're not actually having a discussion at that point. You're engaged in emotional combat, with both partners reacting rather than responding thoughtfully. The solution isn't to power through, but to strategically pause. The most effective couples use what relationship experts call structured timeouts. This isn't the silent treatment or storming off. It's a mutually agreed upon break with clear rules. 1. Either partner can call a timeout using a pre-established neutral phrase like, "I need to pause so," "I can hear you better." 2. The break has a specific duration. 20 to 30 minutes is ideal for physiology to reset. 3. You must specify when you'll return to the conversation. Let's take 20 minutes and come back at 8:30. 4. The timeout is used for calming activities, not stewing or rehearsing your next argument. What makes this so powerful? During the break, several important physiological changes occur. Your heart rate drops below the 100 beats per minute threshold. Stress hormones like cortisol begin to dissipate. Your brain regains access to higher reasoning functions. You regain the ability to see your partner's perspective. The key is that this is a pause, not an escape. Research shows that couples who use this technique properly report 60% fewer arguments that spiral out of control, more productive conflict resolutions, greater feelings of safety during disagreements, less likelihood of saying things they later regret. Try implementing this with your partner this week. Agree on your pause phrase in advance. Something neutral like, "I need to reset so I can really hear you" works better than, "I can't deal with you right now." Remember, you're not avoiding the issue. You're creating the optimal conditions to actually resolve it. What phrase could you and your partner use to call a constructive timeout? Share your ideas below. Your suggestion might help another couple. Mark and Lisa's marriage was crumbling under the weight of constant financial battles. What appeared on the surface as simple disagreements about spending habits actually masked deeper emotional wounds. Lisa, haunted by her parents' bankruptcy, clung to strict budgeting as a form of security. Mark, scarred by his father's workaholic tendencies, rebelled against what he saw as excessive frugality. Their weekly screaming matches followed a predictable pattern. Lisa would criticize Mark's $5 coffee purchases as reckless, while Mark would accuse Lisa of being controlling when she tracked their expenses. The real breakdown wasn't about dollars and cents, but about unmet emotional needs and unhealed family trauma. Their transformation began when they tried the two sides, one truth exercise with their therapist. Taking time to separately articulate their perspectives revealed the surprising common ground beneath their conflict. Lisa wasn't just being controlling, she was terrified of reliving her parents' financial ruin. Mark wasn't simply irresponsible, he was desperate to avoid his father's joyless existence. This breakthrough allowed them to stop seeing each other as opponents and start working as teammates against their shared problem. The solution they crafted honored both their core needs by allocating 70% to essentials and savings, addressing Lisa's security concerns, 15% as personal, no-guilt spending money, respecting Mark's need for freedom, and 15% for shared experiences, fulfilling their mutual desire for connection. They created a financial plan that worked for their relationship rather than against it. Within months, their money arguments decreased dramatically while their savings actually increased. Most importantly, they rebuilt trust by finally understanding that their conflict wasn't about right versus wrong, but about protecting each other from their deepest fears. This story illustrates a powerful truth. Most recurring arguments aren't about what they seem on the surface. When we dig deeper to uncover the emotional roots and shared values beneath our positions, we transform conflicts from relationship destroyers into opportunities for profound connection. The next time you find yourself stuck in a cyclical argument, consider what invisible wounds or unmet needs might be fueling the fire. You might discover, like Mark and Lisa, that you're actually on the same team after all. Every relationship has conflict, but the healthiest couples don't avoid arguments, they navigate them skillfully. These 3 research-backed tools will help you transform clashes into opportunities for deeper connection. Psychologist Dr. John Gottman's famous research revealed that thriving relationships maintain at least 5 positive interactions for every negative one during conflict. This magic ratio creates an emotional buffer that prevents disagreements from eroding your bond. Positive interactions can be as simple as a loving touch on the arm during a tense discussion, sincere compliments, "I really appreciate how hard you've been working," inside jokes that remind you of your connection, small acts of service, making coffee, sending a supportive text. When your relationship account is full of these deposits, withdrawals during arguments feel less catastrophic. Start noticing your ratio this week. If criticisms outweigh affirmations, consciously add more positivity. How you begin a conversation predicts how it will end. A harsh startup, leading with blame or criticism, "You always ignore me," immediately puts your partner on defense. Instead, frame concerns with, Appreciation first. I know you've been stressed with work, and I appreciate how hard you're trying. I. Statements. I feel worried when bills pile up versus you're terrible with money. Clear requests. Could we set aside 10 minutes tonight to talk about the budget? Studies show couples who master this technique have far lower divorce rates. The key: address issues before resentment builds, but always lead with respect. Even the best communicators escalate sometimes. Repair attempts, small gestures to de-escalate, are what separate lasting relationships from fragile ones. Effective repairs include humor. Wow, we're really nailing the dramatic couple fight, huh? Only if it won't feel mocking. Physical connection. Reaching for your partner's hand mid-argument. Ownership. I'm getting too heated. Can I try that again? Code words. A pre-agreed silly phrase. Pineapple. To signal timeout, the secret isn't avoiding conflict, but repairing quickly. Gottman's research found that couples who repair within 20 minutes recover far better. This week, pick one tool to focus on. Track your 5-to-1 ratio using a tally app or notes. Rehearse a soft startup before bringing up a tough topic. Create a repair plan with your partner. Ikiji. If I say tacos, it means I need a hug. Small shifts create big change. As you practice, you'll find arguments become shorter, less frequent, and even productive. Remember, fighting fair isn't about perfection. It's about repairing more than you rupture. Which strategy will you try first? Share in the comments. We're all learning together. Your mission this week? Catch yourself mid-argument and ask, is what I'm about to say bringing us closer or driving us apart? That single moment of awareness can change everything. Drop a thumbs up in the comments if you're taking the challenge. I'll share extra tips to help you succeed.